Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Silver Lining Charities mid-month meeting. We're delighted to be joined this month by James Heather, and he's going to present his talk, Triumph Over Tragedy. So welcome, James.
Hi, good to be here. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm James Heather. I had a traumatic brain injury 21 years ago, and I'm a survivor. I would like to give you some hope. My talk covers lots of ups and downs, my history, accident, and recovery, and I try and be occasionally amusing. This is a true story of resilience. Feel free to laugh, and if you need to take a break, please do so. First things first, am I speaking too fast for you? Secondly, can everyone hear me? And do you still want to? So, yes,
Definitely.
this is how I'm going to speak for the next 30 minutes. I say 30 minutes, but for you, my wonderful studio audience, I'm sure to feel like at least an hour and 45 minutes. I've learned many things the hard way, as you're about to discover. One quite major thing, but we'll come to that. Do you think you're invincible? Another thing I've learned is that I used to be invincible, but not anymore. Well, that's not quite true. I'm just invincible in a different way. Everyone thinks I'm drunk all the time, so people rarely come near me, ask me to do anything at all. But that's how I was previously, falsely invincible. I thought I had everything. I did have everything. About 20 years ago, had a great job, wonderful supportive friends and family, vibrant social life, and a gorgeous girlfriend, was a very bright woman, was a pilot for British Airways. From now on, I'll refer to British Airways as BA, but I thought I would give them the full name at the top of the show for the avoidance of doubt. When I say I was a pilot for BA, I don't mean I played Murdoch in the A-Team. That's a niche reference for a very thin strand of the audience. I'll try and avoid any more of those. Can't afford to lose any more of you. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is life was good. Great, in fact. I had everything. The sky was the limit. There was only one thing left to do. Screw it all up spectacularly in one split second of tragically poor decision making. Sorry to say this, but everyone in this room is going to fail at some point in the future. Failure's road to success. Life was clearly too good. On 28th of December 2002, I've flown into Paris with my BA crew, and we weren't due to fly out again until the following afternoon. So we planned to go out for dinner. Myself, another pilot friend, and two female cabin crew. Sounds good, doesn't it? It's all there for young, professional, dashing, and let's not mince words, beautiful people going out for a nice evening in Paris at Christmas time. Sophisticated and sexy, you all thinking. Sounds like a promise for a romantic comedy. Well, don't get your hopes up. Thought I liked a big circular staircase running around the walls. We'd had a couple of glasses of wine in one of our rooms prior to going out, and we're on good form. I would have said in high spirits, but that turned out to be deeply inappropriate. Anyway, I thought I would impress the girls by leaping athletically over the banister, thinking I was just half a floor up. Spoiler alert, I wasn't, I was 2 floors up. I fell 18 feet and crashed into the cold, hard marble floor of the hotel reception. I broke several ribs in my elbow and suffered catastrophic damage in my brain when my head hit my floor and the skull fractured. I know what you're thinking. That bit's not very amusing. And it's strange, you're right, if now, 21 years later, I do find it quite hard to find the funny here. The best thing I can say about my immediate situation is that I was unconscious. And you can see now why the phrase high spirits would have been a bit wide of the mark, as well as being right on the money. The sky was the limit, and not the ground was the limit. More accurately, the marble floor of a Paris hotel, and it was a hard limit. I was very lucky. I bet you weren't expecting those to be my next words, but I was. The hotel receptionist turned out to also to be a qualified nurse, and she took immediate and capable charge of the situation. Thanks to her, I was hurried to the leading hospital in Paris, the one where the difference stand to after a fatal accident. They had better luck with me. The doctors carried out a risky operation to remove part of my skull to allow my swollen brain to expand. It was touch and go whether I would survive the op, but without it, I would have died. Of course, the surgeon was left with the bit of my skull to put somewhere for safekeeping. No, obviously, he had a plan. They'd think ahead, these French doctors. They stored it in my abdomen to keep it alive, which worked, and led to a funny pub conversation arising from the strangest of the tabloid headlines that would be written about me in the coming months and years. Docs put skull in my stomach. I mean, I suppose the headline on its own is slightly misleading. She just either a serious surgical mistake or that I'm some kind of volunteer surrogate skull carrier. I was in a coma for 6 weeks. Haven't got much to say about that, except my parents bought me some horrible trainers, gave my feet a bite, and then intensive care for further 2 months. I tried to escape my bed when I was in the coma and had to be tied to the bed to keep me safe. Haven't quite done the precise calculation, but I wouldn't be surprised to find out that I've spent more time unconscious in Paris than conscious, and not in the good way. My mum and dad were with me the whole time, renting a Paris apartment and visiting every day. Fortunately, they're both fluent French speakers, which meant they could put notices around my bed with French to English translations, so the nurses could speak familiar phrases to me like clench your fist, open your eyes. Thankfully, those are very responsible people. They resisted the temptation to take the mick with that. And my parents could communicate with the French doctors about my progress And here's the good, if obvious news. There was some. Every day there would be a small sign of improvement. One less stupid touch, a leg movement, a smile, a squeeze of the hand. Communication was the most frustrating thing in Paris. I couldn't speak since I was breathing through a tube inserted in my throat. Had a tracheostomy. My muscle coordination wasn't anywhere near good enough for me to write anything down. To express my thoughts, had to point at letters of the alphabet held by my parents. Once my condition had improved, the doctors remembered to put the British skull back in my head. I did speak to one of the surgeons brushing his teeth in the morning. Sacre bleu, le tête de pilote, j'avais oublié. Just kidding. Again, they knew exactly what they were doing, these French doctors. And as you can see, it's all bone now. The scar's there. I was flying back to London. It was really good till the captain announced that they had a special passenger board on a stretcher at the rear of the aircraft. There was a shortage of beds in London for somebody in my condition. In fact, there was one, well, only one in the trauma unit at Charing Cross Hospital. If someone else had been severely injured in this part of London on the same day as my flight home from Paris, the bed would have just been, let's say, taken and I would have been stuck. This shortage of resources to meet the needs of brain injury patients was to be a recurring issue during my recovery and rehabilitation. By comparison, the hospital in Paris had over 40 beds in their brain injury ICU, and more than double that in their rehab unit. Rather than go all private on you, I'll just leave that there with you now. I spent 3 months in the Charing Cross Hospital, and as my brain and body slowly recovered, found out to relearn virtually everything. Here are just a few things I can do, and I'm in progress. Eating at 6 months, speaking still ongoing, initiating random subject about 18 years, talking outside about 17 years, eating apple with one hand about 10 years, clapping about 7 years, spreading butter about 10 years, doing a business. I'm still doing it slowly and it's still ongoing. Shaving about 10 years, throwing with my right hand still ongoing. Tennis lessons still ongoing, and dancing on the podium 21 years. I've just been to Ibiza with my brother. All the tiny little things that make you out to be a functioning adult. Bowel control, so to put that out there as it were, but this is a silver lining talk. Not kissing though, I've been told I'm still good at that. Although the physio nurses were excellent, their time was of course limited. So sadly, I had sessions 2 or 3 times a week. Much more was needed. So again, I want to say thank you to my parents who relocated to London. and spent time with me every day over 9 months, working, working with me to speed up my recovery. For most brain injured people, progress is initially agonizingly slow, then speeds up rapidly as the mind and body recover from the trauma, eventually plateauing in the long term. I still improve thanks to the things I do to achieve maximum progress before that flattening out a consistently high level of physio and rehab support is crucial during the key early and middle stages. Once I'd eventually progressed to wheelchair, which I naturally picked up with the consummates of a born pilot, I was in the wheelchair for 9 months. I got transferred to the rehab unit at Northern Park Hospital near Harrow. I spent the next 6 months. The physio program is now much more intensive, but still limited. My parents had moved down from Chester and they're staying in my Fulham flat and not paying rent to three lonely parents. My mum and dad work daily with me to improve my muscle strength and coordination. Sorry. Things like trying to throw and catch a ball with my teeth. The catching was good. The throwing was a bit trickier. I'm of course kidding, but surely this was exhausting, but so vital to my future life. She didn't reveal it to me much later, but the doctors had told mum and dad that I'd never walk or talk again, or hop, or break dance, or win the Tour de France, but she grudgingly agreed that they were probably a bit more of a tall order. Anyway, the grim prognosis just made me even more determined that to work out at the damn hospital unaided. One interesting story was that when I was learning to fly in the Phoenix in the USA, I was doing my first solo navigation and my VOR instrument broke, so I should of course turn back, but I didn't. I was lost, and then two F-16 fighters came circling around me and said I was in the live fire exercise area, so I needed to leave immediately and land at the civilian airfield called Gila Ben. Now there was a civilian one and a military one very close together, and I accidentally landed at the military one. Once I'd landed, they told me to get to the aircraft, lie down on the runway. About 5 jeeps and trucks came racing up the runway, and they handcuffed me and took me to see the commander. They assumed I was flying around and transporting drugs. I put on my posh British accent and pretended that I was 17th in line to the throne. He believed me, gave me a very light tell off, and sent me on my way. There were several other brain injured young men on my ward. One fellow was a very sad case, knocked down by a hit and run driver, which was bitterly ironic as he'd been the stuntman who worked on the latest Bond film. But while he was in hospital, he got nominated for an Oscar and invited out to the ceremony in Hollywood. So even the weird, most wonderful things can still happen, even in rehab. After a couple of months, I was able to move around, but shakily. My balance and strength were still at a low ebb, as was I, But then came the day I took the first few unaided steps down the corridor to the applause of the hospital staff, staggering like a Soho drunk on a Friday night. By the time I left Northern Park, I could also speak again, but no one could understand what the bloody hell I was going on about. My speech was virtually unintelligible, even to my parents. More work to be done there. There was a hell of a lot more to be done back then, and doing a self-line talk now for Christ's sake. However, when I did leave Northern Park, I damn well did walk out of there unaided. I moved into a transitional living unit in Putney. It was great and crucial because I had to learn to live on my own again. For 6 months I practiced, the first 3 of which I had to text my girlfriend after every meal to let her know I hadn't choked to death. Not a joke, not fun either, but all part of the process. The transitional living unit flat was also close to my flat in Fulham, and I went once a week for that period before returning home for good a year and a half after my rather regrettable accident caused my head hit the floor in Paris. A word about where my flat is, and plus that I live in a lovely place and a fantastic community, a bunch of near and not so near neighbors who were always there to help. My flat is a converted antique shop in the middle of a row of actual antique shops. It's got a big shop front floor window, and I've installed floor-to-ceiling Venetian blinds, but sometimes I forget to close them on a Saturday or Sunday morning. Get people peering in while I'm sitting on the couch in my dressing gown, wondering what the hell I sell. The local council funded and provided my continued physio support, and through that, I developed my own program of physical activities, which included swimming in the local pool to improve my strength and coordination. Also, just my own life of going out and about with my non-disabled friends has been helping me out greatly. For example, was out with my parents in Hurling Park, and I stood for the first time in the summer of 03, meeting up with friends because they didn't stop inviting me, just adapted the situation, going on buses on the top deck, jeeps on the train. I never felt judged by my friends and family, just support and encouragement. It's very important to have a goal and just concentrate on plan A. If you fall, just get back up. Because of this, I did daily exercises to improve my coordination. Ridiculously simple things like clicking my fingers or clapping my hands. I won't lie, it was unspeakably difficult and really bloody boring. But again, had to be done. It took me 7 years to do this. And at the moment, I can't do it with my right hand, but I keep on trying. It's about halfway there. Because of the damage to my right arm, I had to learn to write with my left hand. I'm kind of ambidextrous now, though. I was right-handed, now left-handed. I was left, now I'm teaching myself again to write with my right hand. I take the greatest pleasure in doing the most commonplace things these days. Just stuff that most other people take for granted, like walking neighbor's dog in the park, balancing on a narrow ledge. I might not do that one again, at least not on the second floor. Carrying coffee in my right hand, but I couldn't have done either about 5 years ago. And still every now and again end up with a hot, wet crotch, and not in a good way. Before my accident, I was an adrenaline junkie, and as a lamb, in the past few years, I've crewed a toy ship race, learned to ski and scuba dive, and even piloted a plane. For example, you can just apply to the Jubilee Sailing Trust and the Disability Snow UK Club, the DSUK. Anyone can apply, even people who wheelchair-bound or blind, and their programs to adapt the activity to suit everyone. My life is full. I've had a great couple of great charity volunteering jobs, and I've been in action TV and film about 360 roles in 10 years. I've been the casualty, The Crown, several adverts, and about 30 films. I'm now well on my way to actually being a disabled actor. With my voice, it's very difficult getting auditioned, and my memories are so good for remembering lines. Well, I've got an agent, so we'll see if that works out. A film based on my tale is in the works, so if there's any finances in the audience tonight, my flatmate, who pretends to know about this sort of thing, has read the script and said it made him cry and laugh, and that it's basically dynamite. A few years ago, I auditioned for Channel 4's The Undateables, and they did a bit of professional filming, but eventually ignored me back, and the feedback was, "Sorry, James, you're just too damn dateable." I have no memory of the events leading up to the marble injury, or many of the months that came after that. My brain has, quite rightly and understandably, blocked it out. My memory has been affected. Everything up here is up here. I just rely on other people to ask me things, and hopefully I can remember it. A lot of what I told you is bizarrely second-hand information. What I was taught happened after the event. What happened to me, what I did, was a tragic, life-changing event. That's not the controversial bit. The controversial bit is I'm generally quite glad it happened. There we go. Because it happened, I found out what others never will. There are different ways to live a life. It made me more positive. It limited, yet delimited me. When other people are stressing out about things, I remain calm, content, and positive, and generally optimistic, and I'm sure I always will be. My baseline is I'm alive, and life living is good. I'm still making friends and just socializing. Because I already sound like drunk and not great in the busy pub on Friday night. But I prefer the quieter life these days in general. I feel like I have more time to appreciate things, and I'm more considerate. B. I'm 48. Nobody my age likes a noisy pub. I like a nice quiet pub. I can have a good one-to-one conversation with a friend, old or new. Although just occasionally nowadays with my vocal improvements, I can be noisy-ish bar and I can still have an understandable conversation. My outlook is simple. Be positive. Don't stress. Live life, the one you've been given or the one you've got in exchange, to the full. Because, spoiler alert, it could be taken away from you tomorrow. Or maybe Wednesday. It usually happened on the Wednesday. Avoid leaving the house on Wednesdays. I'm grateful to be on words to my family and friends, to the doctors in Paris who saved my life, and for the help and support I've received at all the various facilities who enabled my recovery, because they gave me hope and I've learned to respect myself. I'm at the point after 21 years I can stand and talk to you today. My education at the King's School in Chester also helped me to become first a pilot, then to become something else. Through the determination, positivity, and resilience, they helped me to build two parting messages to take away. One, life is precious. Cherish it. Don't squander it. And whatever you do, don't throw yourself over the banister of a Paris hotel. Madrid is fine. And two, sorry, it's an old cliche, even more than the first one. Don't judge a book by its cover. So many times in the early days, people cross the street to avoid that really strangling drunk guy, and I was just trying to get home about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And not in my speech, people make assumptions about my mental ability, my intelligence. Just take a moment to think about that. Realize what difficulties people like us must deal with every day. And please, please don't finish my sentences for me. Just wait a little bit longer. Not to run down a bit of a downer, but I'll leave you the sobering statistic. Head injury remains the most common cause of death and disability in the UK for people under 40. 160,000 brain injuries occur each year, and there are presently 1.3 million people in this country with the chronic disability resulting from those injuries. Thank you for being here, for your kindness, patience, and understanding. Just thank you for hearing and listening. And if anyone wants to talk to me afterwards, I'll be pleasantly surprised. Thanks.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much, James. That's truly inspirational talk. Thank you.
Wonderful.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so
Sounds
It's
much.
really
wonderful
nice.
to hear your story.
Incredible.
Yeah, certainly a triumph over tragedy, and